Welcome to the CodeRage session on HTML5 Builder mobile development and deployment. My name is Sarina Dupont and I'm the product manager for HTML5 Builder. Here with me today is also Adrian Chavez, the technical writer. HTML5 Builder allows you to build mobile applications using both server-side and client-side technologies. Now, the client-side part of a mobile application is responsible for the logic that is processed in the standalone version of the application, and that's your deployed application that you would see on your device. For example, you could deploy it to iOS or Android. And it also does not require a working internet connection in order to run on your device. Now, for client mobile applications, you have access to 3 JavaScript libraries. jQuery, which is a powerful and well-known JavaScript library. If you've been creating web applications or websites, you're likely familiar with jQuery. Also jQuery Mobile, which is an extension of jQuery and has controls and features designed specifically for mobile applications. And also Phonegap, which is an application platform that allows you to access mobile device APIs through HTML and JavaScript. Now, besides client-side and also server-side mobile application development, which we'll be showing you today in some technical demos as well, we'll also be talking about mobile application theming. Now, in HTML5 Builder, you get access to 5 default jQuery mobile themes, and you can easily change the color variations of the mobile theme component. So in HTML5 Builder, in order to change the look and feel of your mobile application, you'd place several controls onto a form, and then you associate those controls with a mobile theme component. If you want to change the overall look of those components, you just switch the theme setting on the mobile theme component. In addition, you also have a visual design interface in HTML5 Builder that allows you to visually design the theme of your mobile application. And it's really easy to do. We provide you with a color palette. You can adjust the saturation, the lightness, etc. And then you drag and drop your colors onto your mobile theme. And it then generates a CSS file that you can associate with that mobile theme component and therefore apply to your mobile UI components that you have in your application. So let's have a look at creating some mobile applications with HTML5 Builder. Now, when we go to new HTML5 Builder projects, we're presented with 4 different application types. In this case, we're going to have a look at client mobile application, which is an application project that is based on client-side web technologies. So here we're presented with our mobile form factor for the iPhone. You can choose from different types of form factors that we've integrated into HTML5 Builder. And also you will see the device skin loaded around your form. And that's designed to give you a better idea of what your mobile application will look like when it's actually deployed to that device. You can also add your own device. If you had a device background, you could load it. You could name this whatever the target device is that you're trying to target. And then you can adjust your screen width and height and also set your designer origin points like you see right here as well. Let me switch back to the iPhone. And let's have a look at some of the components in the tool palette. So we have access to UI components under mobile, and then we also have access to hardware components. And that includes being able to access the camera, the accelerometer, geolocation services, etc. So for this example, we're going to place a couple different components onto a form: an edit control, a label, and a button. Edit control, and we're going to place a label and a button. Also going to place a mobile theme onto our form as well. Now here in my mobile theme, I can choose from the different color variations that we talked about. And then all I have to do is associate my mobile theme with the components that I want to style. So in this case, I have an edit control. I'll just go to the theme property and select mobile theme 1. And then also I'm going to go to the button and also select the mobile theme as well. And now I can choose from the default themes, or I can create my own custom theme. If I go back to the Home tab and browse to the Files category under HTML5 Builder Projects, I can see a mobile theme project type. Now once I open it up, it presents me with the theme roller. And now I can visually design my user interface style, and I can just adjust the lightness or the saturation, and then I can drag and drop these colors onto my controls. And now what I can do is I can go ahead and save this theme. And one of the important things is to save the theme into the same folder that you're going to save your project in. And then I'm going to go to the mobile theme component, and under color variation select custom. Under theme select custom as well. Then custom theme, browse to my theme file. And the custom color variation was a lowercase a. And that is referring to A here, which is our first theme that we designed. While these are referenced with capital letters, in your actual theme you have to reference them in lowercase letters. So here you see that we've applied the custom theme to our controls. Now we're going to change the caption of our button to say hello. Now we want to switch this to BT normal in order to avoid that the web page will be reloaded every time we click on the button. Now, for mobile applications, any response to a user's actions, such as button clicks and text field entries, can be implemented as a response to an event. In this case, for the mButton component, we can create an on-click event. We can either double-click on the button, or we could go in here and select on-click. Now, with the button click, we want to implement a response that shows a message on the label that says hello, and then also shows the name that you've entered into the edit control. So basically, whatever you enter in the edit control, upon clicking on the button, will be shown on your label. Now, jQuery's HTML method lets you define the content of an element, such as mLabel, while the value allows you to retrieve the value of an input field, like an edit control. In JavaScript, the quotation marks that must surround string literals are either single quotes or double quotes. You can also use the plus sign to concatenate strings. And you can see here that as we're typing code, we will see some hints that indicate the kind of members that are supported in a given object, and that is the properties and methods of a JavaScript or jQuery element that is representing the component. Now let's run this. I'm using Chrome in my example. Now let's say we wanted to go ahead and actually deploy this to iOS. We go back to our home screen up here and go to deploy to mobile. So for the mobile platforms that we support iOS, Android, BlackBerry, Symbian, WebOS, and Windows Phone. In my case, I'm going to be showing how to deploy this application to iOS. I'm selecting 5.1. Next. Here I can select the name of my project. And I can also choose my own custom iOS graphics for my application icons, my splash screens, etc. for both Retina and non-Retina displays. I'm just going to create a new folder called Sample App. I'm going to copy this path so I remember it for later on. Select Next, and then it exports the whole project for me. And what that means is it generates all the files that I need. Now if I click Next, I'm presented with this Phonegap Build screen, and what that allows me to do is build my application in the cloud. And what that means is that you don't have to install the native SDKs on your machine if you wanted to use the cloud-based Phonegap Build service. Instead of now taking the files that were generated and in my case moving them over to my Mac and compiling the application in Xcode, you could do this in the cloud. Now in order to use the Phonegap Build service, you'd have to first sign up for an account, and then you could log in with your credentials. Now let's minimize my screen here. I'm going to go to my folder here. And if you had any type of images that you were using in your mobile application, it's really important that you put them into this www folder. Audio clips, videos, images, etc. that you were using in your mobile application have to be placed into this folder in order for them to show up in your mobile application. A good way to test this would be to open the index.html file, and if you had any images, if they weren't showing up here, you could double check that by placing the images, audio clips, etc. in here, and then reloading your HTML page, your index.html page. And if they're there, then they're also going to show up in your compiled mobile application. Now I'm going to take my sample app folder over to my Mac, and I'm going to open up that folder on my Mac. And then I'm going to open up my Xcode project. and hit run. And this is going to compile this into a .app file, a mobile application for iOS. In this case, I'm deploying it to the simulator, but if you have provisioned your device, you can also deploy this to your phone as well. And also submit it to the App Store. In that case, you have to download Xcode and the SDKs, and also have to sign up for a developer account if you wanted to distribute the application through the App Store. If you're deploying the application to iOS, you also have to download and install Phonegap 1.81. It's a free download. You can go to the Phonegap website and download it and install it on your Mac in order to be able to compile the application in Xcode. Now let me pass the mic to Adrian, and he's going to show you how to create a database-connected mobile application.
So now we are going to create a server mobile application, which we are going to connect to an interface server. We are going to need some controls. Okay, that's to show the records from the database. And we are also going to need some components for retrieving the data. Now select the database, connect it, and we are going to write the whole address here. We are going to use the database file included with the sample applications installed with Write PHP, which we will find here, down here. There it is. Okay, so we copy the path here. Okay, now the driver name will be interface, and then the username and password. Now we select the table and activate it, connect it to the database, and select the table name. Now we connect the data source to the table and the mlist to the data source. Now in data mapping, we are going to select project name as the caption. And this should be enough to show the records from the database in the web browser. Okay, now we are going to make these two controls work. We are going to define the onClick event here. Now we'll get the project name from the edit control, and if that project name is not empty, we are going to add it to the database. First, we're going to define the query and then the parameters. Now, for the ID, we are going to use the project name, but we are going to use just the first 5 characters in uppercase. So and now the project name. Okay, we are also going to empty the and edit text box. Here we go. Now we write something here and click Add. It will be added to the list. Okay, now we are going to go on, create a different application. This time we are going to use a client mobile application. Now we are going to connect this client application to a local database on the mobile device where our users install it. We are going to use also the same controls. And we are also going to need a couple of controls components from the mobile hardware category. An MDB transaction, and an MPage events. Now the button will have to be of type BT normal, since we are using a client application which runs using JavaScript only. And now we have to fill the MDB component with some data here. It's not really important. The size is in bytes, so we are going to use a bit more, and the DB version is only relevant for database updates, so we are not using it now. Now this MDB transaction component will be used to initialize the database with the empty table, with an empty table to use in case there is no table already for the project list. We are going to connect the transaction to the MDB, and we are going to define an event handler for its own transaction event. This event gets a database object which we are going to use to run some SQL code. Okay, now we are going to use the on-device ready event here to call a JavaScript function defined by the MDB transaction component. The function is called as the component followed by the transaction word. Okay, now we are going to define an event handler for the onVClick event of the button. Here we are going to need some variables. The project name, and the list, and if the project name is not empty, we are going to run a custom transaction, and we are going to use two of its three callback functions. Now we are going to use this function to perform the insert operation And we are going to use this function to fill the list. The second function is to handle the errors, but we are not going to define that function this time. We use an interrogation mark, which will be replaced by the project name we pass in the second parameter as an array. Now we are going to define the success function. And use it to fill the list. We have to refresh the list. And we are also going to empty the input field and focus it. Okay, now we are going to use the device ready function to fill the list with the items from the local database. So we are going to need the list again. Actually, let me copy. And we are going to use again a custom transaction. Only that this time we are going to use only the first callback function. Now we are going to use the third parameter to pass a callback function that will receive the results from the query. We are going to use a for loop to go through the results. And fill the list. We have to refresh the list after the loop. And this will do. Now we can run the application on an Android emulator. We have to go to deploy to mobile, save the project, go to Android. I'm going to use the defaults here, a different build folder just in case. And we are going to use the SDK libraries so we can build the application locally to run it on the Android emulator. We select the emulator here and click Next. I'm actually running the emulator already to save some time, so the application should pop up here. Oops. Now we should be able to add a new item to the list. And now if we leave the application and open it again, the application should include that new item. Perfect.
Does the database application support data modules?
I will answer that. Yes, I mean, the concept of data modules is the same as you can find on the 5 for Windows and Mac. And so, yes, the goal for you, in fact, should be isolate all your database stuff, queries, and things like that into data modules.
Okay. Then there's a question on the release date for Mobile Studio, and I will simply refer to the Mobile Studio roadmap that is published on EDN and on our corporate website. You can go, I'll put in a link a little bit later, but essentially the target for the iOS piece of Mobile Studio is first half of next year, and the target for Android Mobile Studio is the middle of next year. Can the pictures of the phone be changed by the user?
Yes, if you're referring to the device images that are shown when you're building your application, you can do that actually. There are several different preset device images that we provide, iPhone, iPad. I believe we provide some for the Eras and a couple other Android devices and BlackBerry as well. But we do have the ability to add your own device, and what that means is you can set up your own form factor for whatever device you're looking to target, and then there is an area to select and upload your background image as well. So you could, in fact, load in your own device image.
Excellent. If connecting to an external database, do you use UNC file names or a URL?
To external databases, you're using sockets. I mean, you need to specify the host, the username, the password, and port if it's required. So this is not based on file names.
Okay. To compile an Xcode app, did you say that you had to download something from Phonegap? Can you throw up a link in that case?
Yes, and we require you to download Phonegap 1.81. You can actually go to Google and type in Phonegap 1.81, and it'll give you a disk image. And this is something that's only required for iOS. So if you're on a Mac and you're compiling an iOS application, Xcode, that is something that's required. It's a free download. When you basically download, I believe it's a zip file, you double-click it, and there's a library folder in there. And you would select the iOS library folder, and it gives you a disk image. And there's a quick little installer. It takes like 30 seconds. So it's really easy to set up, and it just provides you with some of the files that you will need to be able to compile your application in Xcode.
Did you say Phonegap 1.8 or 1.81?
1.81, and there's actually
so
a download page. And that's also listed in our system requirements. You can look at that inside the product under help, as well as on the docwiki.embarcadero.com. If you go to HTML5 Builder, docwiki, there's a system requirements page where that is specified as well. But yes, and that's available as a download. You'll see a whole list of different versions that are available for download, but make sure you download 1.81.
Okay, and that's the link I put on the screen, and I put it in the Q&A as well. And here comes the Mobile Studio roadmap link. I will put that in as well. Okay, let's see. Is SQLite accessible from HTML5 Builder?
Well, SQLite is usually the default storage engine for HTML5 browsers. So yes, I mean, as you have seen in the demo, all the database stuff is using on the background SQLite.
Okay. There are several phone types and OSs that HTML5 Builder supports: Android, Windows Phone, etc. While it wouldn't be a problem on iPhone, if you're deploying an Android project, there are many phone manufacturers, Motorola, Samsung, etc., and a number of different phone types for each manufacturer. Do you need to deploy a template within, say, Android or other OSs to support various manufacturers for each phone model? How would the application determine the disparate types of phones connecting? Does the end user have to specify a connection OS and phone model?
No, I believe that's you don't have to specify that. Phonegap, on our website, we list which versions of Android we support, and you shouldn't run into any of those issues. We have ability to be able to design for different form factors within one application so that they will the controls will resize, etc. And I think we have some sample apps even on that. Jose, anything to add?
No, basically, maybe this person is a bit confused on the form designer, where you can see the devices available. That is only for design issues. I mean, as long as the Android device has the right form factor, it's not a problem. So if you are developing an application for Android and you build it using Phonegap, you can go to any Android device that has the minimum Android version with 4.
Which way should we go if we want to develop mobile applications? Should we use HTML5 Builder or should we use Mobile Studio when that comes out? Pros and cons for a Delphi developer, please.
I think that that really depends on what type of application you're looking to develop. Today, HTML5 Builder is certainly our solution, or your solution to getting to mobile quickly. Also, as a Delphi developer, since the development environment is quite similar and it will provide a similar workflow to you, and you are able to target, four major platforms: iOS, Android, BlackBerry, and Windows Phone from one code base using web technologies. Now, just looking at HTML5 versus native as a kind of a general discussion point, there's certainly different types of applications that are more suited for HTML5, more client-side type applications, applications that are not really where the native user interface look and feel is not critical, where performance isn't that critical, where you're not looking to really leverage, have heavy database access. Maybe you want to use local storage. There's certain types of applications that are less intense and less resource intensive, and there's more client-side applications that are more suited for HTML type applications versus on a native side. You will be getting the full native look and feel with Mobile Studio. You'll be able to access like the native wheel pickers for the date pickers, etc. You'll be able to leverage all the database access natively and have really high performance, which is really well designed for enterprise type applications, but also more simplified applications. So I think it really depends on the type of application that you're looking to build. That being said, HTML5 is certainly something that's been getting a lot of attention in the marketplace and something to really consider for application development, and something that I think makes a lot of sense to look at. And HTML5 Builder certainly makes it easier than any other tool to be able to quickly develop an application with all the functionality that we've built in.
Great. Are there support for any kind of database, or do you have a restricted set of databases that you're supporting?
Jose?
For database support, yes. For database support, you need to distinguish between the IDE and your application. The IDE is using DB Express, the same technology as the Delphi IDE uses, in order to connect databases, so you can browse them and open them into the IDE. And the list of databases is shown on the Database Explorer. And when you develop your application, we have more types of databases, and that because that depends on the ability of PHP to connect to those databases. So we are not restricting the set of databases you can access. It's a matter of the technology you are using in order to connect to them. So the answer to this question is no, we don't restrict that.
So you can connect to any database that you want.
Yes, and also you have ODBC, so you can access almost anything.
Great. Is the mobile database MDB cross-platform on iPhone and Android? Can it store a JPEG image?
Yes, all the databases, I'm not aware of any specifics and any issues among the different platforms in regards to the databases. Jose, are you aware of any issues there?
No, MDB is based on HTML5, so that guarantees that using that component is going to work on any platform that is supporting HTML5.
Do I need to install Phonegap on the Mac only, or on Windows only, or on both?
On the Mac only, and it's only a requirement for iOS. It's not a requirement for the other platforms. So it's a requirement only if you're looking to develop iOS applications, which, and I can just give a little more background on that. When you're developing an application for iOS and HTML5 Builder or any platform, you lay out your application, you hook it up to your database, then you go select Deploy to Mobile from the home screen, as you saw in the video, and then you can select your target platform. When you select iOS, you can choose from different target platforms, and it will generate all the files you need. You select a folder that you want to put your output of the files into, and then you end up moving that folder over to your Mac, and it gives you an Xcode project as part of that folder, and then you would open it up in Xcode and compile it, and that does require you to install Phonegap 1.81 on your Mac before you try to compile the application in Xcode. But again, this is only a requirement for iOS development and only has to be installed on the Mac.
What do we have to do to support iOS 6.0.1 and Android 4.2?
I think we have done, and Jose might be able to give some more details on it. I believe I have tried it with just a 5.1 target. I just tried it again today with a 5.1 target that you can select in HTML5 Builder, and there should be forward compatibility. I don't see any issues there. I don't know if Jose has any other information there to add, but I'm not aware of any issues using 6.0 versus 5.1, for example.
No, there is no issue because iOS 5 applications work in iOS 6, the same for Android. The thing is that if you want to use any feature that is specific to the higher version, you will need to wait, of course, for us for an update, because we will need to wrap that into the new components. But existing applications with existing functionality will work on new versions of the operating system.
And just to add to that, if you're developing an iOS application in an HTML5 Builder, you see 5.1 as the latest target. Just select that for your iOS 6 applications as well.
If I wanted to build a mobile kids book with interaction and animations, would you recommend HTML5 Builder, or would you recommend something else?
I think HTML5 Builder would certainly be a quick way of getting there. We have, animations built in. You can actually set up animations and leverage them across the board with your different controls for web applications and also for mobile. We have a toolbar that you can easily drop into your form and have different tabs for different views. You can also, of course, link one page to another. You can work with multiple forms. It would be pretty. I would believe it would be pretty easy to set up. Of course, it depends on the complexity of your book, but this would certainly allow you to pretty quickly get there. Jose, anything to add?
No, I agree with your answer.
So here's a clarification on the question from before about multiple phones, specifically in the Android landscape. Thanks for your answer, but let me clarify. If a user using an Android phone Model X by Motorola uses the application, is their display is probably going to be different size, different resolution, different form factor, etc., from somebody else using maybe a Samsung Galaxy 3 or anything else. How does the app display correctly on the different phone models? Does the user have to do anything specific to make it look good?
I believe. Go ahead, Jose.
Well, basically to make an application to behave in a dynamic layout environment like the one you are describing, it's a matter of using client pages. So you can use HTML templates which adapt to any resolution. So the designer is proposing like a default resolution, but the interface adapts to any form factor the device uses. And there are properties that allows the components themselves to adjust to the containers. So if that makes easy, for example, if you change the orientation of the device, to make the layout to adjust to that new form factor, because actually orientations are different form factors. So the solution is to use client pages because they are based on pure HTML, and there are properties on the components to let them adjust to the container size. So I mean, you don't need to think about the target form factor in that sense.
Okay. Will be excuse me. Will there be another release of HTML5 Builder where while we wait for DB Grid to come back, or and maybe some other features that were not added in HTML5 Builder from Red PHP in the past?
So we did remove some components like the Cookstew library and the Cookstew components that were very PHP specific ones, and Jose can add some more info on the reasons behind that as well. But we are working on an update. There will be an update available. That we're working on bug fixes, etc. For an update. In regards to the grid, I would highly recommend the Jpeg grid component that's available through Jpeg. They're a third party that has a really nice grid component, and I know Jose has tried it out. I've tried it out. It's a really nice grid component. There are also some other ones, but that's definitely one that's been optimized for HTML5 Builder and integrates really well with HTML5 Builder. Jose, anything to add?
Yeah, basically, just to clarify why we remove some previous functionality. For example, there were several frameworks. Cookstew was one of them, and the problem was very hard for customers to understand that they couldn't use or mix Cookstew components with another jQuery mobile components or jQuery components because there were JavaScript conflicts. And what we decided is to check where the market was going and where the technology is in the future is going, and everything is going HTML5. So what we decided is to go with jQuery and jQuery mobile for mobile development, and don't include any other framework from us. But that doesn't mean that anyone can develop those third-party components. I mean, the IDE and the RPCL are open for anyone to develop their own third-party components. So in this case, for example, DB Grid is not part of our library, but and is a third-party component. You can try and you can buy and you can use it.
Will Phonegap be a for charge solution in the future, like IntraWeb now does? Can we comment on that?
Can you clarify that question? I'm not sure I understand it.
I think the fear is that now that Phonegap has been acquired, will they? I mean, obviously, we can't necessarily answer on their behalf. Will they start charging for? I'm assuming the build service for Phonegap in the future.
So the build service, I believe, they are already charging for beyond. I think it's the first. I've looked on the website and it seems to be changing. So initially, I think a couple months ago, it was free up until a certain number of projects, and then you had to pay. Then at some point I saw it wasn't free anymore. Well, there were still some free projects and you had to pay, and now it looks like it's all free again. It seems to be changing, so I haven't looked recently, but I know that for a fact they had a free project creation. I think your first project up to a certain number of files, something like that, was free, and then you would pay a small fee in order to use the Phonegap build service. Now that is something that they're offering as an optional service and that we have integrated into the IDE as an option for you. However, that being said, you can, of course, install the native SDKs on your machine and compile your application locally. It just gives you another option. In regards to Phonegap in general, there is Phonegap as part of, it's an Apache Foundation project, a Cordova project. That is an open source project, and I believe, and that's referring to the Phonegap libraries and the Phonegap hardware access, etc., that we're leveraging as well. And I believe that they have said quite frequently that they're planning on keeping that project open source. Of course, I can't speak on their behalf, as Anders said. However, that's what I've been reading online.
So I just put up the Phonegap Build FAQ. You may be able to find the answers that you're looking for in here on this page. And like I mentioned, they were acquired by Adobe, and of course we can't answer necessarily on their behalf, but I would go to their support community if you can't find the answer in the FAQ that you're looking for. You mentioned some manufacturer's name. Was it Drumitech, or what was it?
Oh, Jomitech. It's Jomitech. Jomitech. Jomitech.
And it's www.jamitalk.com.
I believe that's the right URL.
All right. And let's see. Any plans to add Delphi script?
You know, we're always looking at new features for the future. So, you know, that's part of our list of things to look at. So appreciate you bringing that up. And again, I said this in yesterday's session as well, and I'll provide my email address here. It's really good for us on the product management side to hear what you would like to see in HTML5 Builder. It's really valuable feedback. You're welcome to email me anytime. And Anders, I'm sure, can put up my email address. It's Sarina, SARINA .Dupont, DUPONT, @Embarcadero.com. And if you have any questions or feedback or features you'd like to see, that's a really good way to reach me. We also run surveys, as you know, also on the Rad Studio side, but that's a good way if you have some specific questions or something that you want to find out about now or feature request you'd like to make to reach me.
There you go. So here's Sarina's name, Sarina.Dupont @Embarcadero.com. All right. Any resource pointer pages for components like those mentioned for grids, etc.?
I think that we have, I don't know that, I'll have to check if we have something on a doc wiki that links to some of those, and if not, we can certainly put something together. JommyTag is one that's been optimized and is ready to be plugged into HTML5 Builder. I know there are some other grid components that you could create wrappers for to bring into HTML5 Builder as well. And we can work on some information on that via maybe a blog post or as a resource page on our doc wiki. So I'll check with the team to see what we can do to provide you with some more information there.
And I put up John's page here at yomitech.com, here as well. He's got components for PHP, full and free. He's got the Platinum Grid, and he's got a
yes, and the Platinum
compile.
Exactly, Platinum Grid is the name of the component pack for HTML5 Builder, Platinum Grid.
Okay. And it's actually platinumgrid.com by itself as well, if that's easier to get to. So there you go. Okay, if there are any more questions, put them in right now. Anything that you guys want to add, Jose or Sarina?
Well, I would say thank you very much for joining us. I hope you were able to see how easy it is to create both client-side and also client or server-side mobile applications with HTML5 Builder. Of course, that's not the only thing you can build with HTML5 Builder. You can also build full web applications. But in regards to getting your applications to mobile now, we definitely are providing an easy and quick way of getting there and being able to leverage the code you write and the application design you're doing by being able to target multiple platforms from the same code base. Jose, anything to add?
Well, basically, thanks everyone for attending, and I'm just curious to know what the question about Delphi script, what that means for that specific customer Delphi script, because can mean a lot of things. So it would be nice to get some feedback from him to know what will be useful for him.
Okay, so maybe if he can. I lost the answer, the question here. It rolled off. But whoever asked that question, if you would like to send an email, that would be great.
Yeah, so if whoever the person was that asked about Delphi script for HTML5 Builder, if you send me an email, sarina.dupont@embarcadero.com, then I'll be sure to get that information over to Jose so we can further discuss that.
Which JDK may I use for Android deployment?
Sorry?
Well, he asked which JDK to use for Android deployment.
We are providing one with the product, so the goal is to use the one we are providing.
Yes, so when you install HTML5 Builder, there's actually an Android SDK installer that's part of that you can optionally choose to install, and I think that's definitely the recommended way to go about installing and getting Android set up, because it makes sure that the pairings are correct, etc. So that's as part of HTML5 Builder. When you launch the installer, there's a checkbox you can check, and then it'll walk you through the different steps and will automatically install it for you. So that's the easiest way to get it set up, to get your virtual device set up, so that when you are creating an Android, an application HTML5 Builder, and you select deploy to mobile, and you select Android as a target platform, Then at the end, you can choose to either deploy that to your device or to your Android emulator. And that all works really well if you use the Android installer that's part of HTML5 Builder in order to get that all set up.
Does the installer also support Windows Phone?
So Windows Phone, we support Windows Phone in HTML5 Builder, but that's something that's supported through the Phonegap Build service. So that's not something that you install on your machine. It's you get the files, and then basically when you're on the deploy to mobile screen, the last step is where you see your login for the Phonegap login, and it generates a zip file for you automatically, and then you would log in with your credentials and upload the zip file, and you can select Windows Phone as your target platform within the cloud-based Phonegap Build service.
What can we expect from future enhancements? Do you have a roadmap for HTML5 Builder by any chance?
We don't have a roadmap published, but that's something definitely that we can talk about and see if that's something that we can consider doing in the future.
All right. With that, I would like to thank Sarina and Jose for being part of the Q&A and for this presentation.
Thank you very much for joining us today. And again, if you have any questions or feedback, please feel free to send me an email.